Most people are aware of the benefits that high levels of well-being can bring to an organisation and to the people who work within it. It's important to realise, I think, that well-being is not just something that's of minority interest to occupational health or health and safety or some of the subgroups within an organisation. One of the best ways of getting the benefits from well-being is to do what I'm going to refer to as mainstreaming it. What I mean by mainstreaming it is to bring it in to the core people processes of the organisation and to look at some of those through a well-being lens. Let's just walk through some of the key processes that happen in organisations. Every organisation has to select employees to come and join and take on specific roles. So the first thing I'll look at is the selection and assessment function in an organisation. Now, of course, as things stand at the moment, that's dominated by ensuring that the people who are recruited have got the right competencies, the right capabilities to do the job. And I'm not saying that's not important. But often that looks at what people can do under circumstances where perhaps they're not being challenged particularly, or where things are not particularly difficult. It also looks at their maximal levels of performance rather than their typical day-to-day levels of performance. If you look at that through a well-being lens, what you would need to think about is what the challenges to their resilience are. What are the kinds of things for that particular role that could knock them off course and make it difficult for them to achieve something? And how well matched the individual is to being able to cope with those things. That's related to their competencies, but it is, of course, a very different way of looking at things. Moving on and thinking about the induction process, if we look at that through a well-being lens, what would make sense, I think, is to take a look at the kinds of roles that people have to carry out in the organisation and ensure that during the induction phase, they're given some preparation for the kinds of adversity that they might be confronted with, the kinds of challenges to their resilience and their well-being that they might from time to time, not necessarily all the time, be faced with, but preparing them for that and giving them some ways of coping with what will come up is what I mean by looking at each of these processes through the well-being lens. All of the reports on well-being in organisations, Dame Carol Black's report, the Foresight report, even going back to the Health and Safety Executives management standards, focus on how important leadership and management is. Most leadership and management development programs don't have specific modules focused on managing for well-being and performance. And it's clear from those reports, and it's clear from looking at the very beneficial results that some organisations can get, that managing for both well-being and performance, leading an organisation where you can ensure that the workforce has high levels of well-being and also is performing effectively is really important. So including something about well-being, educating managers and leaders about the business benefits of well-being, and also skilling them up in terms of how they manage people and lead their organisations from that perspective. One final point, from time to time, many organisations have to restructure. They may have to make changes to their workforce. They may have to make people redundant. And of course, well-being is an issue there. Well-being is an issue from two perspectives really there. First, there's the issue of the people who are being made redundant. Traditional outplacement development focuses really very heavily on ensuring that people can prepare a good CV, equipping them with job search skills. What I don't think many of these schemes do is focus on ensuring that people have the resilience and know how to build the resilience to cope with what might be many rejections from when they initially try and find themselves another role or find themselves another job somewhere else. So building resilience for the people who are leaving the organisation. And then there are the people who remain behind, the survivors. we know from research that it's actually also very difficult for the people who survive that kind of thing to maintain their levels of well-being in an organisation for all sorts of reasons. So survivor training, when there's been a major restructuring and perhaps redundancy, also seems like an important issue. These things only come to light really if you look at the core organisational processes, the core people processes, through the well-being lens.